to get started? So this is going to be a little bit more of an interactive session. So I'm only going to talk for a very few minutes because this is going to be about the elevator pitch. And then we're going to break into like little groups because we're going to write and practice our elevator pitches on each other, okay? And then we're going to come back together and we're going to, talk about like what we learned, what we heard, and, share some with everybody. So it's going to be interesting. All right, so I'm going to start off. So I actually, when Chaya asked me, she's like, we're going to do one advanced track and one basic track. I said, okay, well, what would you like me to do? She goes, can you work on the elevator pitch? And actually it was a little bit hard for me because I kind of was thinking, okay, what is it that I say? So I actually went on to Forbes and I'm part of this E&Y, Ernst & Young Women's Network. And I remember the first training they did with us 4 years ago was creating the elevator pitch. So I asked them, like, what was the material you guys used? And how'd the session, because it was such a great session. And that's how I learned my elevator pitch. So she sent it to me and I put that together. So this is not my original content. I got it from her. And the session that I did when I sat with other people and we talked about it and we worked and we practiced it with each other was like the best thing also, rather than listening to someone. So that's what I decided to do. So we're going to go a couple things here and we're going to go over it and then we're going to break up and talk a little bit. So really, you think about what's an elevator pitch, okay? Really, to me, like that's like the word for it, but it's just starting a conversation, right? You're walking in and you're at a conference like this. It's like, well, how do you start a conversation? And the purpose of it, especially if it's a client potentially, is to get them to keep talking to you, right? So that's really what the elevator pitch is, and it could be in a conversation. So I'm going to kind of go through these basics, and then I put some examples that I found that are completely different styles, and there's no right or wrong way, but when you guys and I hope that you're going to pick someone that you don't know so that when you practice, see if they engage you in the conversation, because that's the point of it, right? Because the goal is if there's something you can offer in their service, that they actually want to follow up with you and potentially lead to a sale or an investor or whatever it is that you want to do. So first of all, it needs to be short, right? It can't be this long thing. You ever sit there and someone keeps talking to you and you're just like, I don't even remember the first thing you said to me, right? So you got to kind of engage them, right? Be very engaging. 1 second, I'm going to take a drink.
Can I close the door?
Yeah. And then you also want to say who you are and what you do right away, right? Hi, my name is Talia Mashiach. I'm the CEO and founder of Eved, right? Like, so you want to say who you are, what you do when you introduce yourself, instead of saying, hey, I'm Talia, right? So that's part of it. And then also you might want to say something around who your customers are, right? So if you want to impress them, I don't think you need to say that right away. And I'll kind of give you my example of how I would do my elevator pitch. But in your elevator pitch, you want to talk about what you do or who you service so that it seems. So if you have Fortune 500 companies, you want to name drop one of them, right? If you're talking to a Fortune 500 CEO. If you're talking to, think of, a parallel customer, right? You're talking to a potential, a networking event, you're talking to a potential customer and I don't know, it's a teacher, right? So then you want to name drop like another teacher that they might identify. So name drop a client that the person you're talking to can identify with because they'll be like, oh, that's like me. So if they're buying from you, then I'm interested because I want to buy from you. Does that make sense? And name drop potentially the one that's most respected, right? Depending on what you do. So if I'm even if I'm like a criminal lawyer, oh, I helped win the case for something that right? Everybody knows, because you can apply it anywhere. Okay, and then also, this is a big mistake I think people make, is they talk about what they do as opposed to what they do for others, right? So this also goes to, if I'm going to take my example, we automate the buying and selling for meetings and events, right? That's just me. Or I say, I help meeting planners save money by automating their process, right? I help people protect their assets by writing a patent for them as a patent attorney. See, give me another example. Let's see, who else? Give me another profession out here. Business, guys. Come on, give me another business. Swim dresses. I help women feel comfortable going to the beach by providing them with outerwear that they can wear, right? As opposed to I wear something. So just, think like that in terms of how you're going to do that, and we're going to practice on each other. Okay? And then like industry terminology. So this is something I tend to do. I've worked on that quite a bit. Is like if nobody understands, like keep really simple words, right? So if you're like especially in more complicated, really smart professions, and you start throwing those words out that only people in your own industry know, it doesn't really work so well. So you want to keep your words very simple. You should be able to tell your kids, like they packed in a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, what you do, and if they understand it, then it's a really good elevator pitch. And then your vision, right? So something like, sometimes when, again, it doesn't all have to be in the first 4 or 5 sentences, but, we want to grow into $1 billion company. I want to be I want to be the #1 swimwear company. I want to help, 100 people by the end of the year. I'm a fundraiser. I want to help organizations raise $50 million, right? So just a big, so someone, I think that what that does is it makes people think like, oh, this is what they do, and they have big goals. Maybe that's something I want to be a part of, right? Something that I want to do. And then, of course, this is what I talked about before, which is it's not about what you do, it's how you're going to help them, right? That's in every sales pitch, that's in everything else. I'm going to help you save money, right? I'm going to help you do this. I'm going to help you win. I'm going to help you protect your assets, all those things. And then, of course, at the end is you don't want to tell them everything because you want them to continue the conversation, right? So you want to leave them with something that then they ask you, wait, is that something you can help me with? Oh, wait, tell me more. Oh, wait, you were in the press, so even sometimes you leave them with a question, right? You ask them a question, and then they ask you a question. So I'm going to go through and give you guys some examples, okay? So taking kind of just a little bit, and again, I'm not like this big believer in this, like, let me sound like a rehearsed elevator pitch, because whenever someone comes up to me, like it sounds like that to me. So, and there are a lot of people who say that. I don't like that. I like when someone has on my style, I like when we have a conversation. So, I engage them, and I find that that's more successful for me. So here's one of these examples. I'm the CEO and founder of the market leader in PowerPoint, right, creation. And they said, oh, what does that mean? Or what do you do? I help build PowerPoint muscles. This is just an example he took off. What is that, right? So, and then he goes on to tell them. So he created it. So you might have a business where you might throw something really unusual out there, and you get them to want to say, wait, what's that? What does that mean? What do you do? And now you started to engage a conversation as opposed to just listening there. Another example is telling a story. I don't know who was in the class before, but you could start telling them a story. So at some points, when I was in something, I would say, how these big companies have these big conferences that they do, and they need to. Have you ever been on a conference where you had like thousands of people like this one? People had to get there. There were flowers in the room, wherever else. Well, we provide the software in order to be able to get there, right? Some things, so it's kind of sometimes telling a story that's also part of it. And then lastly, is just kind of going right into it, right? Is like, okay, let's read this one because it's kind of interesting. You know how most business people use PowerPoint, but most use it pretty bad? Well, bad PowerPoint has consequences, right? They're engaging them, right? The sales don't close. They don't have good ideas. Our good ideas get ignored. Time gets wasted. Building slides, right? My company shows, right? Showing the value. How to use PowerPoint to capture those sales, right? So they're going in and kind of setting up the problem first, and then he's going in and saying, how do I solve that problem? Now, that's not necessarily someone who might be from their industry, right? It could be someone who they're meeting that's an investor. So let's practice a little bit, okay? And then we're going to break up.